Hey YouTubers, today we are in a 1997 Mercedes C230. Now the C230, the C220, the C280 from 94 I believe it is up until 2002, as late as 2002. They have the dash layout that looks very much like this, and well, some of them have an optional CD changer here, and there's a CD changer in the trunk. This is the controls for it, so it's a completely different control. You can't control it from the cassette player, but what it does have, this controls the CD changer, and then it sends a signal up here to this. So this, when you press the CD, it pretty much goes to auxiliary mode, and then so the signal is fed from here up to this cassette player, and then it's sent out through your speakers. So you could put 6 CDs in the trunk and then play them. You know, that was pretty much top of the line technology back in 1997. Today most cars don't even use that. You know, the ones that have CDs have MP3 players, and some cars don't even have CD players anymore. They just have that little USB drive where you can play music from a memory stick or on your phone. Anyway, this video is showing you how to remove the radio. So if you have any of these C230s, C280, C220s, and you see this little slot right here on the AC controls, and then it's right down here also on the radio. So that little slot on the button, it's pretty inconspicuous, but that is what you would do to remove the radio. So I'm going to show you real quick. I actually went on eBay. I'm sure if I took the time and effort I could make these myself, but I went on eBay and I bought a set of these, actually on Amazon. I went on Amazon and I bought a set of these. It came with 4 of them, but you only need 2 to remove the radio. There are 2 little slots, one on the bottom here and one on the bottom over there. And what you do is you stick these keys in with the tapered side facing inward, and it just slides all the way in until you feel it snap. So it just goes in, and you hear that snap, and then the same thing over here, it snaps. And then all I need to do is pull these keys slightly outward like this, and then pull it back. So I'm gonna try to do that while I record. These 2 keys, we pull them outward like this, and then slide the radio out, and that's all there is to removing this. I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that. So you don't have to remove any screws, you don't have to take this dash panel apart. If you do that, you're probably going to end up ruining something. Oh, and to remove these keys, all you have to do on the radio is this little silver indent. You just push this in a little bit. Now when the radio is in the car, this will never lock to where you can't pull it out. You can push it in and pull it out, but once it's out of the car and there's no tension on that key, the only way to remove it is to push that indent in. And then the same thing over here, you push this in and remove it. Then on the back here are the wires, and I'm going to show you guys real quick. This is really simple wiring. So up here we have our power. So we have the constant power, the ignition power, we have the remote power that powers up the CD changer, and we also have a ground wire. Then the second set of plugs control the speakers. So these are right and left channel for the front, rear. So you got 4 channels on this, as opposed to on my 300E, which only had 2 channels, and then it was controlled by a little scroll wheel down in the center console. And then the last plug down on the bottom down here, this is where the audio input comes from the CD player, from the CD changer. So this would have right and left channel, actually, just from the CD changer going into the radio, and then from the radio it'll transfer it and send it back out and into the speakers. And that's pretty much all that's on here. So I went ahead and removed the radio. I don't know if it's gonna work when I plug it back in or not, but like I said, this right here is the CD changer input to the radio, and then over here we have power and we have speakers respectively. Here's the interesting thing. If you watch my other video where I put the radio in my 300E, you saw that I had a Delco radio that came out of a semi, and I installed it because, well, these cars, you know, I like to keep them a little classy. I don't want a bunch of flashing lights and silver and blue and purple and all that extra stuff. You know, I don't want it to distract from the classiness of the car. I want it to look kind of stock. So anyway, I got that radio and I was about to try to put it in. Okay, so here's the Delco radio, and it takes a plug-in for a Panasonic radio, and I know this because the plug-in for here was missing when I got the radio, and I had to search the internet high and low, and finally, strangely enough, Walmart.com sold the plug-in that goes into here. I'll show you. This is the harness that goes into the back there. See, it's the double harness and it just plugs in, and Walmart has this listed as a Panasonic part. You know, it plugs into the back there. It's supposed to be for a Panasonic radio, and it works perfectly. Now, when you plug this in the back, it goes into these two plugs here, and then down here there's another plug with a whole bunch of pins, and it is some kind of controller. I don't know what it controls. And I simply have not been able to find a plug for that. Even when I looked up Panasonic, I haven't found any plug-in harnesses that match that. And also, strangely enough, there's a space here for a fuse, but the radio worked fine without the fuse. I never installed a fuse in there, and it worked fine when I had it in the 300E. Now here's the juicy part. I took this radio, well, first of all, I took my Mercedes radio out. Okay, here's my stock Mercedes radio and this Panasonic radio, and they have the exact same wiring harness in the back. Let me show you. So this and this matches up with this and this. The wiring is exactly the same, and I'll show you right now. So when I take, let me get this out of the way. Ah, that fell on my foot and it was unpleasant. So when I take my Mercedes radio and I set that on the floor, and then I take the Panasonic radio, I could just set it right here, like so, and then so these things are indexed, so you can't put them in wrong. See, so this retaining clip right here is centered, and this one is for the speakers, and then this one is offset to the end right here, and this is for the power input. So this is your power, ground, key on, and all that stuff. So you put this in here and it just snaps into place like so, and then this one, we put it in here and it snaps into place just like so. And then once you've done that, I can turn the key on. I need like an extra hand. Alright, so I turn the key on and there it is. And then you turn it on. Now, here's the thing. The antenna doesn't look the same. It's not the same thing. So this has a female antenna port here on the car, on the radio, which is what most aftermarket radios have. And this antenna simply will not go in there. Okay, it's supposed to, the antenna port is supposed to look like this, where it's kind of protruding with that tiny hole instead of a pin. It's supposed to be, well, there's a hole for a pin, but it's a really tiny hole in the entire assembly is protruding from the radio slightly. And so what I did was I just went down to the parts store. You can get this at AutoZone, O'Reilly's, any of them, and just get an antenna adapter kit, which has pretty much all of the possible antenna adapters. And you find the one that goes to this wire, so you just plug it into the radio, and then you find the one that goes to that wire and plug it in there. So I'm going to do that now and see if she works. Okay, so I put the antenna adapter on there, and
just donating $1.9 million in cash.
There you go. It works. Not only does it work, but the antenna works. Watch, I'll turn it off and then I hit the power button. Well, my antenna's kind of broken, so it doesn't go all the way down. But the point is, the signal for the antenna is working. And so when you turn it on and off, the antenna goes up and down respectively. So yeah, I hit the power.
Will things get back to normal? We know that one of the things you might be worried about is paying your bills.
I need to pay some bills. We're here to help, and we'd like to...
And this display matches that display up there nicely. See, that's what I was going for, is this kind of clean stock look. Now, here is the one thing that I am going to have to do to modify this. This radio, this bezel, is squared here, whereas if you look here on this edge, this is rounded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off a little piece on the edge of this bezel all the way around. Well, on the four corners, I should say, just so it'll recess in there just the way it's supposed to, and it'll go all the way back. Because if I show you, when I put it in there, see, it's close but not quite. It can still recess maybe about 1/8 of an inch, so it'll be all the way back there. And so that's what I'm gonna do now, is I'm gonna whip out my Dremel and do a little bit of cutting, and it'll be all right. I took a serrated edge kitchen knife. I couldn't find my file, and I didn't feel like whipping out the extension cord and the Dremel and all that extra stuff. And all I did was I cut just this little piece off the edges in all four corners, so that it'll fit in that little bevel space right there. Because see, this is curved, and so the radio is going to seat and it's going to fit a little bit on the outside. Now, what I could have done was sharpen up these corners on this piece and get the radio to fit inside of this instead of altering the radio. But I think I'd rather mess the radio up than mess this up. I somehow think this would be more expensive than buying a radio. Getting one of these in as nice condition as this, I mean, this one is just in perfect condition. There isn't a scratch, or you know, sometimes you see the clear coat has cracks on it, or you know, imperfections on the surface. This one is absolutely flawless, and so I really didn't want to mess it up. If it was cracked and messed up and all that, then I'd be like, screw it, you know, I could just get another one if I mess it up. But since this one is in such a nice shape, we're just gonna go ahead and mess the radio up instead. And the last part of the equation, these retaining clips for this radio, they are in the exact same place as the ones on this radio, in this, as far as the distance back. So when I put this in, and I actually just slid this in, and I realized that it snapped into place once I beveled those corners. So when I push it in, you hear that click? So it's in place. Like, I can't pull it back out. So it went in there just like the factory one did, and it's nice and neat. You know, it looks good. It looks really nice. And now I have two clocks in my car, because there's a clock on the dash up here, and there's one down here, which of course I didn't set it because I just installed it. So yeah, it looks nice. I'm definitely happy with it. However, to be realistic, what I've done is I've switched out a cassette player that controls a 6-disc CD player for a CD player that doesn't control the 6-disc CD player. So now all I have is a single-disc CD player that plays AM/FM radio, which the old one did. However, the sound quality on this one seems to be a little bit better. I think this has a little bit higher RMS power output on the speakers, because the sound quality seems to be noticeably better on this radio as opposed to the original one. This one was, I think it's 20 by 4 RMS is what it's rated at. It might be 18, I'm not sure. But anyway, the audio quality is better. That being said, what I probably will end up doing is taking this out. If I could get a Bluetooth player, a player that I could hook up to my phone so that I could play the music on my phone through the speakers, through the radio, I might actually switch this out. I don't know, I'll look. I mean, I know there are lots of them out, but I'd have to find one that I actually like, that, you know, is kind of this clean look. And so if I could do that, then I might end up switching this out, because this is kind of an upgrade as far as the audio quality goes, but you know, usability, it's just as useful. I don't have any CDs. I have MP3 CDs that I've burned, you know, but this doesn't even play MP3, so that's not helping me at all. So now this is defunct. I can get rid of this. I don't know what I might put down here. I might actually put some gauges. I might just get a blanking plate, remove this completely, and, you know, get like an oil pressure gauge and a voltage meter or something like that. I have no idea, but this is useless now, so I might get rid of this and get something useful put down here in the future. But for now, this is installed and it works nice. I like the audio quality. I can't play any music for you, you know, because of the whole YouTube copyright business, but I'm definitely happy with it, and this was one of the easiest installs of a radio I've ever done in my life.